Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to discuss a subject that many of us shy away from: identifying behaviors in a partner that do not deserve a second chance. Relationships, as we know, are built on trust, mutual respect, and love. But what happens when these foundations are shaken, not once but repeatedly? Let us explore 5 such behaviors, starting with betrayal of trust. Trust is a fragile gift. Once shattered, it is painstakingly difficult to restore. A partner who lies, cheats, or deceives doesn't merely make a mistake. They make a choice to prioritize their desires over the sanctity of your bond. The second behavior is consistent emotional manipulation. Apologies often come wrapped in charm and excuses, but patterns speak louder than words. Someone who repeatedly invalidates your feelings or distorts reality is not apologetic, they are strategic. Third is disrespect in any form. Be it verbal, emotional, or physical, disrespect strikes at the core of who you are. No apology can erase the scars left by words or actions meant to demean or control you. The fourth behavior is neglecting emotional safety. A partner who creates an environment of fear, anxiety, or instability is not just failing you, they are harming you. Love should be a sanctuary, not a battlefield. Finally, there is refusal to change destructive habits. Whether it's addiction, anger issues, or irresponsibility, promises to change must be backed by consistent effort. Without genuine action, these promises are empty words designed to pacify, not heal. Now, I'm not here to discourage forgiveness, it is a noble act. But forgiveness does not mean forfeiting your dignity. There are behaviors that cross a line, damaging not just the relationship, but your sense of self. Remember, boundaries are not selfish, they are essential. Choosing not to give a second chance is not cruelty, it is self-preservation. Relationships are meant to uplift and inspire, not to break and rebuild you over and over again. Trust is the cornerstone of every meaningful relationship, the invisible thread that binds two people together in mutual respect and understanding. It is not something to be given lightly, nor taken for granted. Trust is earned over time through actions, consistency, and sincerity. However, it is also fragile, a delicate bond that can shatter in an instant. When broken, it rarely returns to its original state, no matter how much effort is made to piece it back together. Imagine trust as a mirror, clear, reflective, and whole. When it falls and breaks, no amount of glue or careful reassembly can restore it to perfection. Cracks will remain, visible reminders of the damage done. This is the reality of betrayal, whether it comes in the form of lies, infidelity, or dishonesty in any shape. It isn't just about the act itself, but about what that act represents: a disregard for the foundation of the relationship, and ultimately a choice to prioritize personal gain or comfort over the partnership. Betrayal is never an accident. It is deliberate. To lie or deceive requires intention, a conscious decision to hide the truth or manipulate a situation. Even in moments of weakness or fear, the choice to betray trust signals a lack of respect for the other person. And that lack of respect can be a devastating revelation. For the one betrayed, the fallout is profound. Trust is not just about believing in someone's words or actions, it is about feeling safe with them. When trust is broken, that sense of safety vanishes. Doubts creep in and every interaction becomes tinged with suspicion. The person you once leaned on for support and comfort now feels like a stranger. This emotional upheaval is not something that can be undone with a simple apology or promise to do better. Words, after all, are easy. Actions, especially repeated ones, reveal true character. When faced with betrayal, many people struggle with the decision of whether to give their partner a second chance. Society often romanticizes forgiveness, portraying it as a virtue that strengthens relationships. But forgiveness, while noble, is not synonymous with tolerance. There is a difference between forgiving someone and allowing them back into a position of trust. Forgiveness may free you from anger and bitterness, but it does not erase the consequences of the other person's actions. Some might argue that everyone deserves a second chance, that people can change. While it is true that individuals are capable of growth and redemption, change is not guaranteed. More importantly, the burden of proving that change falls squarely on the shoulders of the one who broke the trust. It is not the responsibility of the betrayed to rebuild what was shattered. It is up to the betrayer to demonstrate, through consistent and sincere effort, that they are worthy of another chance. Even then, the scars of betrayal often linger, making it difficult to fully restore what was lost. It is also crucial to consider patterns of behavior. A single mistake, though painful, might be forgivable under the right circumstances. However, repeated betrayals reveal a deeper issue, one of character or values. A partner who lies or deceives time and again is not making isolated errors, they are displaying a lack of integrity. And integrity is not something that can be taught or demanded, it is intrinsic to who a person is. The decision to move on from a relationship marred by betrayal is not an easy one. It requires strength, self-awareness, and a commitment to your own well-being. Staying in a situation where trust has been repeatedly broken can lead to a cycle of pain and resentment. It can erode your self-esteem, making you question your worth and your ability to find a healthier relationship in the future. Ultimately, trust is a gift, one that should be cherished and respected. When someone chooses to break that trust, they are showing you who they truly are. And while it may hurt to let go of a relationship, holding on to something that has been irreparably damaged can hurt even more. Your peace of mind, emotional safety, and self-respect are worth more than the illusion of stability in a relationship that no longer serves you. Life is too short to settle for relationships that make you feel less than you are. Trust is the foundation of love, and without it, even the most passionate relationship will crumble. When someone betrays your trust, they are not just breaking a promise, they are breaking the very foundation of what you share. Some things, once broken, cannot and should not be mended. Emotional manipulation is one of the most insidious behaviors a partner can exhibit in a relationship. Unlike overt forms of abuse, it often operates under the surface, cloaked in charm, clever words, and seemingly well-intentioned gestures. It is a deliberate strategy used to control, confuse, and undermine the other person, all while maintaining an illusion of care or concern. This makes it particularly harmful because it erodes a person's confidence, sense of reality, and emotional well-being over time. Recognizing emotional manipulation is crucial, as is understanding why it is a behavior that should not warrant a second chance. At its core, emotional manipulation is about power. The manipulator seeks to control their partner, often by distorting facts, exploiting vulnerabilities, or using emotions as tools to their advantage. It is not a one-time event, but a pattern of behavior that unfolds in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. This can make it difficult to identify, especially for those who trust their partner deeply. Manipulators are skilled at presenting themselves as supportive and loving, which creates a disarming contrast to their harmful actions. One of the most common tactics used in emotional manipulation is gaslighting. Gaslighting involves denying the reality of events or feelings to make the other person question their perceptions and sanity. For instance, a manipulative partner might dismiss your concerns about their behavior by saying, "You're overreacting," or "that never happened." Over time, this erodes your confidence in your own judgment, leaving you reliant on their version of events. This is not an act of love or care, it is a calculated attempt to destabilize your sense of self. Another hallmark of emotional manipulation is blame shifting. When confronted about their actions, manipulative partners often redirect the conversation to focus on your perceived flaws or mistakes. For example, if you bring up a valid concern about their behavior, they might respond with, "Well, you're not perfect either," or "If you hadn't done this, I wouldn't have reacted that way." This shifts the responsibility away from them and onto you, making you feel guilty for even addressing the issue. It's a tactic designed to avoid accountability and maintain control over the narrative. Emotional manipulators also use guilt and shame as tools to achieve their goals. They may play the victim to elicit sympathy, framing themselves as the ones who are hurt or misunderstood. Statements like, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me," are common. This approach not only deflects attention from their behavior, but also pressures you into compliance. You begin to feel that questioning or challenging them is unfair, which further strengthens their control. Emotional withholding is another weapon in the manipulator's arsenal. This involves withdrawing affection, communication, or support as a form of punishment. For instance, if you don't agree with them or comply with their wishes, they may give you the silent treatment, act distant, or withhold praise. This creates an imbalance in the relationship where you are constantly trying to regain their approval or affection. It's a cycle of reward and punishment that keeps you emotionally dependent on them. Over time, these behaviors take a toll. Emotional manipulation chips away at your self-esteem, making you doubt your worth and abilities. It isolates you from friends and family, as the manipulator often seeks to be the sole source of validation and support in your life. You may find yourself walking on eggshells, constantly trying to avoid conflict or displeasing them. This is not love. It is control masquerading as care. When someone manipulates you emotionally, they are showing a profound lack of respect for your autonomy and well-being. They are not interested in building a partnership based on mutual understanding and respect. Their focus is on maintaining power and control. This is why emotional manipulation is not a behavior that deserves a second chance. It is not a momentary lapse in judgment, but a deeply ingrained pattern of behavior that requires significant self-awareness and effort to change. The question then arises, can emotional manipulators change? In theory, yes, with intensive therapy and a genuine commitment to self-improvement, some individuals can recognize and unlearn manipulative behaviors. However, this process is long and challenging, and the success rate is often low. Manipulators must first acknowledge their actions and the harm they have caused, which is difficult given their tendency to deflect blame. Without this level of accountability, any promises to change are hollow. Even if a manipulator expresses remorse and a desire to improve, it is crucial to evaluate their actions, not their words. Are they taking tangible steps to address their behavior, such as seeking professional help or actively working on communication skills? Or are they merely offering empty apologies to win back your trust? Change requires consistency and effort over time, and it is not something that can be achieved overnight. For the person on the receiving end of emotional manipulation, the decision to end the relationship is often fraught with guilt, fear, and self-doubt. Manipulators are adept at making you feel that leaving them is a betrayal or a failure on your part. They may even promise to change using your hope and compassion against you. It's important to remember that your well-being must come first. Staying in a manipulative relationship can have long-term consequences for your mental health, including anxiety, depression, and a diminished sense of self-worth. Setting boundaries is a critical step in protecting yourself from emotional manipulation. This involves clearly communicating your limits and refusing to tolerate behaviors that undermine your autonomy or well-being. However, it's important to recognize that manipulators often resist boundaries, viewing them as a threat to their control. They may test your resolve, push back against your limits, or try to guilt you into compromising. This is why ending the relationship may be the only way to fully break free from their influence. Walking away from a manipulative partner is not easy, but it is an act of self-respect and empowerment. It sends a clear message that you value your mental and emotional health, and that you will not tolerate behavior that diminishes your sense of self. Surrounding yourself with supportive friends, family, or a therapist can provide the strength and perspective needed to navigate this process. In the end, emotional manipulation is a betrayal of trust and love. It is a behavior that strikes at the heart of what a healthy relationship should be, a partnership based on mutual respect, understanding, and care. When a partner chooses to manipulate, they are prioritizing their own desires over your well-being. They are not acting out of love, they are acting out of a need for control. This is not something that deserves a second chance. Your worth is not determined by your ability to endure manipulation or tolerate disrespect. It is determined by your ability to recognize when a relationship is no longer serving you and to make the courageous choice to walk away. By refusing to give a second chance to emotional manipulation, you are not only protecting yourself but also setting a powerful precedent for the relationships you deserve in the future, ones built on genuine love, trust, and respect. Disrespect in a relationship is one of the most corrosive forces to its foundation. It often begins subtly, creeping into conversations, decisions, and interactions until it becomes a normalized part of the dynamic. Disrespect, whether it is verbal, emotional, or physical, is not a mere flaw or mistake. It is a clear indication of a lack of regard for your value as a person and a partner. When disrespect manifests in a relationship, it strikes at the very core of mutual respect and equality, two elements essential for a healthy, thriving connection. This is why disrespect is a behavior that does not deserve a second chance. Disrespect can take many forms, but its essence is the same. It diminishes, dismisses, or disregards the worth and dignity of the other person. Verbal disrespect often comes in the form of hurtful words, sarcasm, or condescension. A partner who constantly belittles your opinions, mocks your choices, or speaks to you in a demeaning tone is not just being critical, they are establishing a power dynamic where your voice and feelings are invalidated. Over time, this erodes your self-confidence and sense of identity, leaving you feeling small and insignificant. Emotional disrespect, on the other hand, is more covert but equally damaging. This includes ignoring your needs, dismissing your feelings, or failing to take your concerns seriously. For example, a partner who consistently prioritizes their desires over yours or invalidates your emotions with statements like "you're too sensitive" is undermining the emotional safety that should exist in a relationship. Emotional disrespect creates an environment where you feel unsupported, unheard, and invisible, a stark contrast to the mutual care and consideration that define a healthy partnership. Physical disrespect, while more overt, is no less harmful. This includes any form of physical harm, intimidation, or boundary violation. Even subtle actions like invading your personal space during an argument or using their physical presence to assert dominance signal a lack of respect for your autonomy and well-being. Physical disrespect is a clear red flag that should never be ignored or excused, as it not only endangers your safety but also signifies a complete disregard for the principles of love and equality. The impact of disrespect in a relationship cannot be overstated. At its core, disrespect diminishes the very essence of love and connection. Love thrives in an environment of trust, appreciation, and equality, but disrespect introduces doubt, resentment, and insecurity. When a partner treats you with contempt or disregard, it sends the message that you are not valued or worthy of their respect. This can lead to a cycle of self-doubt, where you begin to question your own worth and accept behavior that you would never tolerate from anyone else. Disrespect also creates a power imbalance in the relationship. A partner who disrespects you is asserting dominance, consciously or unconsciously establishing a dynamic where their needs, opinions, and feelings take precedence over yours. This imbalance is toxic and unsustainable, as it breeds resentment and dissatisfaction over time. In a healthy relationship, both partners should feel equally valued and empowered. Disrespect undermines this balance, making it impossible to build a strong and lasting connection. One of the most insidious aspects of disrespect is its tendency to escalate. What starts as a dismissive comment or minor boundary violation can quickly snowball into more significant forms of disrespect if left unaddressed. This is because disrespect, when tolerated, reinforces the idea that such behavior is acceptable. Over time, the boundaries of what is deemed acceptable shift, allowing increasingly harmful behaviors to take root. This is why it is so important to address disrespect early, and decisively giving it a second chance only invites more of the same. Many people struggle with the decision to walk away from a partner who disrespects them, often because disrespect is rarely constant or overt. It is often interspersed with moments of kindness, affection, and remorse, which can create confusion and make it difficult to identify the underlying pattern. A disrespectful partner may apologize profusely after an outburst, promising to change and offering temporary displays of affection to regain your trust. While these gestures may feel genuine in the moment, they are often short-lived, serving only to perpetuate the cycle of disrespect. It is important to recognize that disrespect is not a behavior that can be fixed by you. While open communication and setting boundaries are crucial in any relationship, they are not effective if the other person lacks the willingness or ability to change. True respect is a fundamental aspect of a person's character. It cannot be forced or negotiated. A partner who consistently disrespects you is revealing a lack of maturity, self-awareness, or empathy, qualities that are essential for a healthy relationship. Giving a second chance to disrespect not only undermines your self-worth, but also sets a dangerous precedent for the relationship. It sends the message that such behavior is tolerable, creating an environment where disrespect can continue unchecked. This not only harms you, but also enables the other person to avoid accountability for their actions. By refusing to accept disrespect, you are not only protecting yourself, but also holding the other person accountable for their behavior. Leaving a relationship due to disrespect is not a failure, it is an act of self-preservation and self-respect. It is a recognition that you deserve to be treated with dignity and care, and that staying in a relationship where you are disrespected is a betrayal of your own worth. Walking away from disrespect does not mean you are giving up on love. It means you are prioritizing the kind of love that is built on mutual respect, understanding, and equality. Ending a relationship due to disrespect can be difficult, especially if there are emotional ties or a history of shared experiences. However, it is important to remember that love without respect is not love, it is dependency, control, or obligation masquerading as affection. True love uplifts and empowers, it does not diminish or demean. By refusing to accept disrespect, you are creating space for a relationship that aligns with your values and nurtures your well-being. In the end, respect is not negotiable. It is the foundation of trust, love, and connection, and without it, a relationship cannot thrive. Disrespect, whether verbal, emotional, or physical, is a clear violation of the principles that define a healthy partnership. It is not a mistake or a flaw, it is a choice, one that reveals a fundamental lack of regard for your worth as a person and a partner. By choosing not to give a second chance to disrespect, you are making a powerful statement about your own value and the kind of relationship you deserve. You are setting a standard for how you expect to be treated, not just in romantic relationships, but in all aspects of your life. This is not an act of rejection or cruelty, it is an affirmation of your own worth and a commitment to the kind of love that respects, cherishes, and celebrates you for who you are. When it comes to relationships, promises are powerful tools. They hold the potential to create bonds, build trust, and offer a sense of security. A promise from a partner often carries significant weight, signaling their commitment to improving or changing for the better. However, as much as promises can strengthen a relationship, they can also become hollow and destructive when they are broken repeatedly. The disconnect between a partner's promises and their actions is a clear indication that something fundamental is missing, and when this occurs consistently, it should raise alarm bells. The gap between promises and actions is a critical behavior that does not deserve a second chance. A promise, in its essence, is a verbal contract and agreement between two people to act in a certain way or fulfill a certain expectation. It is meant to offer reassurance and stability. In the context of a relationship, when one partner makes a promise, it communicates their intention to act with integrity, honesty, and accountability. However, the true measure of a promise is not in the words spoken, but in the actions that follow. A promise without action is nothing more than empty words, and when these empty promises are made repeatedly, it becomes clear that they are no longer sincere, but rather a tool used to placate or manipulate. One of the key issues with repeated broken promises is that they undermine trust. Trust is the foundation of any strong relationship. When one partner consistently promises change, growth, or action, but fails to follow through, it gradually erodes the trust that was built between them. Over time, this creates a sense of instability and insecurity. The person on the receiving end of these broken promises begins to feel as though their partner cannot be relied upon, not just in the present, but in the future as well. This unpredictability breeds frustration and doubt, and it often leads to emotional withdrawal, as the person no longer feels safe in believing what they are being told. Repeatedly broken promises also create a feeling of being manipulated. When someone continuously says they will change but never does, it often feels like they are trying to placate you, rather than genuinely making an effort to improve. This tactic is particularly damaging because it puts the responsibility for change on the other person without any meaningful action on their part. It leads to a cycle of false hope. Each new promise is met with tentative optimism, only for that optimism to be dashed when the promise goes unfulfilled. The emotional toll of this cycle can be devastating. Not only does it create feelings of betrayal, but it also forces the person who is constantly let down to question their own judgment, as they are left wondering if they are too demanding or too hopeful. What is often overlooked in the dynamic of repeated broken promises is the emotional manipulation that accompanies it. A partner who constantly promises to change, improve, or meet specific needs, but never follows through, is leveraging your trust and goodwill against you. They may make these promises to pacify you during moments of conflict or to avoid facing the reality of their own shortcomings. In these instances, the promise becomes a temporary solution to a deeper issue, their inability or unwillingness to actually change. The problem is that, over time, the person being promised change becomes emotionally drained as their hopes and expectations are constantly dashed. This kind of emotional manipulation leaves a person feeling exhausted, disillusioned, and ultimately powerless. Furthermore, promises that are made and broken repeatedly suggest a lack of respect for the other person. When a partner repeatedly fails to deliver on their promises, it sends the message that their words and commitments are not meaningful. It shows a disregard for the other person's needs, desires, and well-being. It also implies that the person making the promises does not value their partner enough to take the necessary steps to follow through. While it is common for people to make mistakes or fall short of expectations from time to time, a consistent pattern of broken promises reveals a deeper issue, a lack of accountability and responsibility. This is a serious breach of trust and respect in the relationship. The pattern of broken promises can also lead to resentment. When a partner repeatedly promises to change or do something and then fails to do so, the other person is left feeling not only hurt and disappointed but also resentful. Each broken promise chips away at the goodwill in the relationship, replacing it with feelings of frustration and disappointment. The more these promises are broken, the harder it becomes to believe that anything will ever change. Resentment builds quietly at first but grows stronger with each new unmet expectation. This resentment can create a divide between partners, making it increasingly difficult to communicate or work together toward resolution. It is important to acknowledge that promises, especially in a romantic relationship, are not trivial. They are declarations of intention that reveal a partner's commitment to maintaining a healthy, loving, and cooperative relationship. When promises are made with no intention of keeping them, they not only devalue the relationship but also undermine the respect and trust that should be mutual between both partners. Promises are meant to offer hope and assurance, not to manipulate or deceive. A key question that often arises when dealing with a partner who continuously breaks promises is whether or not they are capable of change. It is certainly possible for someone to change their behavior, but it requires consistent effort, self-awareness, and accountability. Change is not something that can be promised once and then left to take care of itself. It takes time and intentionality to break bad habits and cultivate healthier patterns of behavior. If a partner has repeatedly promised change but failed to deliver, it may be an indication that they are either unwilling or incapable of making the necessary changes. In these situations, the issue is not just the broken promises but the lack of follow-through. This points to a deeper issue in the relationship, the absence of mutual respect and accountability. A partner who fails to follow through on their promises is demonstrating a lack of consideration for the other person's needs and desires. A promise without action is nothing more than a tool for avoiding conflict or responsibility. It is not a sign of love or commitment, rather, it is a sign of avoidance and manipulation. Ultimately, a pattern of broken promises is a significant red flag in any relationship. It indicates a lack of sincerity, integrity, and respect. While everyone makes mistakes and occasionally falls short of their commitments, a consistent failure to follow through on promises is a serious breach of trust and a signal that the relationship may be in trouble. When promises are broken time and time again, it becomes clear that the foundation of trust is compromised, and rebuilding that trust is often not possible. A relationship built on empty promises is fragile and unreliable, and it is unlikely to survive without significant changes. Giving a second chance to someone who repeatedly breaks their promises is not only unfair to you, but also detrimental to the relationship itself. It prolongs a cycle of disappointment and emotional harm, preventing growth and resolution. Instead of waiting for promises to be fulfilled, it is often healthier to acknowledge the reality of the situation and move forward, whether that means confronting the issue directly or walking away. The most important promise in any relationship is the commitment to honor and respect one another. When that commitment is broken, it is time to reassess whether the relationship can continue to meet your emotional needs and whether it is worth investing more hope in empty promises. Lack of accountability is one of the most detrimental behaviors in any relationship, as it undermines the very foundation of mutual trust and respect. Accountability is a cornerstone of emotional health and growth, both individually and as a couple. When one partner repeatedly fails to take responsibility for their actions, it creates an imbalance that ultimately breeds resentment, confusion, and an overall sense of dissatisfaction. Accountability isn't just about admitting when you're wrong, it's about recognizing how your behavior affects others, making amends, and striving to be better. When a partner is unwilling or incapable of being accountable, it signals a deep-rooted problem in the relationship, one that cannot be ignored or overlooked. The first issue with a partner's lack of accountability is that it creates a cycle of blame and defensiveness. Instead of facing the consequences of their actions, a person who refuses to be accountable deflects responsibility, often blaming their partner or external circumstances. For instance, if they make a hurtful comment or act in a way that causes harm, they may excuse their behavior by saying things like, "You made me do it," or "This is your fault for pushing me." These statements shift the focus away from their own actions and place the burden of responsibility on you, the person who has been affected by their behavior. This not only prevents any real resolution or healing, but also puts the onus on you to change or fix the situation. Over time, this pattern of blame shifting can erode your sense of agency and self-worth. You may begin to feel that no matter what you do or how you act, you are always somehow at fault. This is not a healthy dynamic in any relationship. It fosters an environment where both partners are stuck in a cycle of conflict, unable to move forward or make any meaningful progress toward mutual understanding or growth. The absence of accountability keeps the focus on external causes or misunderstandings rather than on the real issue, their failure to take responsibility for their behavior. Furthermore, when a partner refuses to be accountable for their actions, it fosters a sense of powerlessness in the other person. Accountability is a sign of maturity, self-respect, and emotional intelligence. When one partner consistently avoids it, it leaves the other feeling ignored, unimportant, and unacknowledged. The partner who refuses to take responsibility may act as though their actions have no consequences, disregarding the pain or harm caused to the other person. This imbalance of responsibility makes it difficult for the relationship to thrive, as both partners are no longer engaged in a process of mutual care and growth, but rather stuck in an unhealthy power dynamic where one person holds all the control. The inability to accept responsibility also impacts the emotional safety of the relationship. Emotional safety is built on the trust that both partners will own up to their mistakes, apologize when necessary, and strive to grow from their experiences. When accountability is absent, emotional safety is compromised. The partner who is not held accountable may continue to repeat harmful behaviors, knowing there will be no consequences or even acknowledgement of their actions. This creates an atmosphere of fear, confusion, and insecurity for the other partner, who is left wondering when the next instance of neglect or harm will occur. When one partner is continually evading responsibility, it creates a toxic environment that prevents any real emotional intimacy or genuine connection. This lack of accountability also prevents personal growth, both for the individual who refuses to take responsibility and for the relationship as a whole. Growth requires self-awareness and a willingness to change, both of which are impossible without the ability to own up to mistakes. A partner who consistently avoids accountability is stagnating, trapped in a cycle of denial and avoidance. Instead of recognizing their shortcomings and learning from them, they continue to make the same mistakes, which not only harms the other person but also limits the possibility of growth within the relationship. In a healthy relationship, both partners should be committed to self-improvement, and this process requires honest reflection and a willingness to acknowledge and learn from mistakes. In addition to stifling individual growth, a lack of accountability also halts the growth of the relationship itself. Relationships are dynamic, and they require both partners to continually work on their issues and strengthen their connection. If one partner refuses to take responsibility, it creates a roadblock to any meaningful progress. The other person may feel as though they are doing all the work to maintain and improve the relationship, while their partner remains stagnant. This imbalance leads to frustration, resentment, and emotional exhaustion. When accountability is absent, the relationship becomes one-sided, and over time, this emotional labor becomes unsustainable. Another problem with a lack of accountability is that it undermines trust. Trust is an essential component of any strong relationship, and it can only be built when both partners are transparent, honest, and willing to take responsibility for their actions. Without accountability, trust begins to erode, as the partner who is not taking responsibility for their actions demonstrates a lack of honesty and integrity. Trust is not something that can be restored with empty apologies or promises of change. It is rebuilt through consistent, accountable behavior. If a partner continues to avoid responsibility for their actions, it creates a sense of doubt and insecurity, leaving the other person questioning whether they can trust their partner at all. In addition, a lack of accountability often prevents conflict resolution. In any relationship, conflict is inevitable. Disagreements are a natural part of the dynamic, and how those conflicts are handled can determine the health of the relationship. However, when one partner refuses to be accountable for their actions, conflicts cannot be resolved in a healthy way. Instead of working together to address the underlying issue, the partner who evades accountability will likely deny their role in the conflict or shift the blame onto the other person. This makes it difficult to reach a resolution or find common ground. Instead of finding solutions and moving forward, the relationship becomes bogged down by unresolved issues and recurring conflicts. When a partner is consistently unwilling to be accountable, it can also create a sense of emotional isolation. The person who is not being held accountable may seem emotionally distant or disconnected, as though their behavior has no real impact on the other person. This can leave the partner who is seeking accountability feeling invisible or unheard. Over time, this lack of emotional connection can lead to a breakdown in intimacy and closeness. In healthy relationships, emotional closeness is nurtured through open communication, mutual respect, and a willingness to share vulnerabilities. But when one person refuses to take responsibility for their actions, this vulnerability is blocked, creating an emotional divide between the two partners. For those who are involved in a relationship with a partner who refuses to be accountable, it is important to recognize that this is a behavior that should not be tolerated. Accountability is essential for the health of the relationship, and without it, the relationship cannot thrive. A partner who refuses to take responsibility for their actions is showing a fundamental lack of respect and care for the other person. This behavior will only continue to harm the relationship, and the longer it is ignored, the deeper the damage becomes. It is crucial to set boundaries and hold a partner accountable for their actions. The act of holding someone accountable is not about punishment or control, but rather about fostering a healthy relationship dynamic where both partners are responsible for their behavior and contribute to the well-being of the relationship. A relationship without accountability is a relationship that lacks integrity, honesty, and mutual respect. In such a relationship, trust and emotional connection are bound to suffer, leaving both partners feeling unfulfilled and disconnected. A lack of accountability is not a behavior that deserves a second chance, especially when it becomes a repeated pattern. It is an indication of a deeper issue within the relationship, one that prevents both partners from growing, resolving conflicts, and fostering a healthy, respectful bond. In such cases, it may be necessary to re-evaluate the relationship and consider whether it is truly serving both individuals' needs and well-being. A relationship should empower both partners to be the best versions of themselves, and without accountability, that potential can never be fully realized. A lack of empathy is one of the most damaging behaviors in a relationship, as it fundamentally disconnects individuals from one another. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another person, and it is a critical component of emotional intimacy and connection. Without empathy, a relationship becomes a transactional exchange rather than a mutual sharing of experiences, vulnerabilities, and emotions. When one partner consistently fails to demonstrate empathy, it creates an environment where emotional needs are ignored, leading to feelings of isolation, frustration, and resentment. This behavior not only harms the emotional bond between partners, but can also prevent the growth of the relationship and make it difficult to resolve conflicts. The lack of empathy can manifest in various ways, from dismissing your emotions to failing to acknowledge or understand your perspective during moments of conflict. One of the most common signs of a lack of empathy is the tendency to invalidate the other person's feelings. For instance, when you express sadness, frustration, or pain, a partner who lacks empathy might dismiss your emotions by saying things like, "You're overreacting, it's not that big of a deal," or "You're just being too sensitive." These types of responses signal a lack of understanding and respect for the other person's emotional experience. Instead of offering comfort, validation, or a listening ear, the partner's response minimizes your feelings and undermines your emotional needs. Over time, this erodes the trust and emotional connection that are crucial for a healthy relationship. When a partner consistently fails to demonstrate empathy, they may also fail to consider the impact of their actions on the other person. Empathy requires the ability to step into someone else's shoes and imagine how they might be feeling in a given situation. Without this capacity, a person might behave in ways that are inconsiderate, hurtful, or thoughtless. For example, a partner who regularly makes plans without consulting you or dismisses your concerns about certain actions might not be intentionally trying to hurt you, but they are failing to recognize the emotional consequences of their behavior. This lack of consideration leads to emotional neglect and feelings of being disregarded or unimportant. When this behavior becomes a pattern, it can create an emotional rift in the relationship, making one person feel like they are invisible or expendable. One of the most damaging effects of a lack of empathy is the emotional distance it creates between partners. Relationships thrive on emotional connection and shared vulnerability. When both partners are able to empathize with one another, they can provide support during difficult times, celebrate each other's successes, and navigate life's challenges together. However, when one partner is emotionally distant or unable to empathize with the other, it creates a disconnect that makes it difficult to foster a deep, meaningful bond. The person who is not receiving empathy may begin to feel alone in the relationship, as though their emotional needs are going unmet. This sense of isolation can lead to emotional withdrawal, resentment, and a breakdown of communication. Instead of feeling supported and understood, the partner who lacks empathy may begin to feel like their emotions and experiences are irrelevant or unimportant. The inability to empathize also affects conflict resolution in a significant way. Conflict is an inevitable part of any relationship, but how couples handle disagreements can either strengthen or weaken their bond. When both partners are able to empathize with each other's perspectives during a conflict, they can approach the issue with understanding, patience, and a willingness to compromise. However, if one partner lacks empathy, the conflict becomes one-sided. Instead of actively listening to the other person's concerns and attempting to understand their feelings, the person without empathy may focus solely on their own viewpoint. They may become defensive, dismissive, or disengaged, which only intensifies the conflict and prevents a resolution. Without empathy, conflicts become opportunities for division rather than growth, and the relationship suffers as a result. A lack of empathy also prevents the development of trust. Trust is built on the belief that both partners genuinely care about each other's well-being and will act in ways that protect and nurture the relationship. Empathy is a key component of this trust, as it allows both individuals to feel understood, supported, and cared for. When one partner consistently fails to empathize with the other, it signals a lack of emotional investment in the relationship. The partner who is not receiving empathy may begin to question whether their needs matter to the other person, leading to feelings of betrayal, abandonment, and insecurity. Over time, this erosion of trust can create a toxic dynamic in the relationship, where both individuals are guarded and unwilling to fully open up to one another. In some cases, a partner may refuse to demonstrate empathy because they are emotionally unavailable or incapable of connecting with their own feelings. This can be particularly challenging in relationships, as it often leads to a one-sided emotional dynamic. A partner who is emotionally unavailable may struggle to empathize with their significant other because they are not in touch with their own emotions. This emotional distance can result from a variety of factors, including past trauma, emotional numbness, or a lack of emotional intelligence. Regardless of the cause, the end result is the same. The partner who is emotionally unavailable becomes unable or unwilling to provide the empathy that the relationship requires. Another reason for a lack of empathy may be rooted in self-centeredness or narcissism. In relationships with narcissistic individuals, the focus tends to be on their own needs, desires, and emotions, often at the expense of the other person. A narcissistic partner may fail to empathize with their significant other because they are primarily concerned with their own gratification and may lack the emotional capacity to understand or care about the feelings of others. This lack of empathy is particularly harmful in relationships, as it creates an environment where one partner's needs are continually ignored or belittled. Over time, the person who is not receiving empathy may feel increasingly invisible and powerless, trapped in a relationship where their feelings are constantly overlooked. Empathy is also essential for emotional growth in a relationship. When both partners demonstrate empathy, they help each other navigate life's challenges, learn from past mistakes, and evolve as individuals and as a couple. A lack of empathy prevents this process, as it keeps both partners emotionally stagnant. Without the ability to share and understand each other's emotional experiences, there can be no real growth or progress. Relationships that lack empathy are often stuck in a cycle of unaddressed issues and unspoken resentments, with both partners feeling unheard and unfulfilled. This emotional stagnation can lead to the eventual breakdown of the relationship, as both individuals become emotionally disconnected and dissatisfied. Ultimately, a lack of empathy in a relationship is a behavior that does not deserve a second chance. Empathy is not a minor or negotiable trait, it is essential for the health and longevity of a relationship. Without empathy, there can be no emotional intimacy, no trust, and no real connection. A relationship without empathy becomes a transactional exchange, with both partners acting out of self-interest rather than mutual care and concern. Over time, this lack of emotional understanding creates distance, resentment, and dissatisfaction, ultimately leading to the breakdown of the relationship. While empathy can be developed and nurtured, it requires effort, self-awareness, and a genuine desire to understand and support the other person. A partner who refuses to demonstrate empathy is not only neglecting the emotional needs of the relationship, but is also signaling that they are unwilling to engage in the work necessary to maintain a healthy, loving bond. Without empathy, the foundation of the relationship crumbles, and it is often best to walk away and seek a connection where emotional needs are met with care and respect. A lack of respect is perhaps one of the most destructive behaviors in any relationship, as it undermines the fundamental basis for healthy mutual connection. Respect forms the bedrock of emotional security, trust, and overall well-being in a partnership. When one partner continually disregards or disrespects the other, it creates an environment in which love, appreciation, and understanding cannot thrive. Respect involves treating each other with dignity, valuing one another's opinions, boundaries, and autonomy, and acknowledging the unique worth of the other person. When respect is absent, it results in a relationship where one partner is treated as inferior or unimportant, which ultimately leads to emotional pain, disillusionment, and erosion of the bond. One of the key signs of a lack of respect in a relationship is the dismissal or belittling of the other person's thoughts, feelings, or needs. In healthy relationships, both partners should feel that their voices are heard and their emotions acknowledged. However, when one partner is consistently dismissed, mocked, or ignored, it creates a dynamic of emotional invalidation. For example, if a person consistently laughs off or downplays their partner's concerns, whether about something significant like future plans or something more trivial like how they feel in the moment, it sends a clear message that their feelings are not worthy of consideration. This diminishes the emotional safety of the relationship, causing the person being disrespected to feel unimportant and heard and invalidated. Over time, this emotional neglect can cause significant harm, as the individual who is constantly disrespected may start to question their worth within the relationship. Similarly, when respect is lacking, personal boundaries are often disregarded. Boundaries are crucial in maintaining a sense of individual identity and ensuring that both partners feel safe and comfortable in the relationship. When one partner continually violates the other's boundaries, whether physical, emotional, or psychological, it is a direct reflection of a lack of respect. This behavior can take many forms, such as ignoring requests for space, pushing someone into uncomfortable situations, or disregarding their emotional needs. For instance, if a partner repeatedly pressures the other to engage in activities they are not comfortable with or disregards their emotional state in favor of their own desires, it is a clear violation of personal boundaries. This not only damages trust but also erodes the foundation of mutual care and consideration that should exist in a healthy partnership. A lack of respect also manifests in controlling or manipulative behaviors. A partner who disregards the other person's autonomy may attempt to control or dominate various aspects of their life. This could range from controlling who they spend time with to dictating how they should think, feel, or act in certain situations. Controlling behaviors stem from a fundamental disrespect for the partner's individuality and agency. In such situations, one person treats the other as though they are incapable of making their own decisions or determining what is best for them. This type of manipulation not only undermines the person's self-esteem but also fosters an environment of fear, guilt, and emotional dependence, where the manipulated partner feels trapped and powerless. In addition to emotional and psychological manipulation, a lack of respect often shows itself through verbal or physical abuse. Verbal abuse, such as name-calling, insults, and constant criticism, directly targets the other person's self-worth. It involves using language to degrade, humiliate, or demean them, often in an attempt to assert dominance or control. Physical abuse, which includes any form of physical violence or intimidation, is an extreme violation of respect and a severe breach of trust. Both verbal and physical abuse are unacceptable and must never be tolerated in any relationship. These behaviors not only cause immediate emotional and physical harm, but also leave long-lasting scars that can affect the individual's mental health, self-esteem, and ability to trust others in the future. Abuse of any form is never a sign of love or commitment. It is an expression of power and control, rooted in deep disrespect for the other person's humanity. When respect is absent in a relationship, it becomes difficult to trust the other person or believe in their intentions. Trust is built on the assumption that both partners have each other's best interests at heart and will act with integrity and honesty. Disrespectful behavior, however, undermines this foundation by creating doubt, fear, and insecurity. For instance, if a partner consistently ignores your feelings, makes decisions without consulting you, or acts in a self-centered way, it sends the message that their priorities take precedence over your needs. This lack of consideration creates a power imbalance, where one partner's needs are consistently subordinated to the other's desires. This can lead to deep feelings of betrayal, as the person being disrespected begins to question whether they are truly valued in the relationship or if they are merely being used to fulfill the other person's needs. Respect is also crucial when it comes to communication. Healthy communication is based on mutual respect and the willingness to engage in honest, open, and compassionate dialogue. However, when one partner disrespects the other, communication becomes dysfunctional and ineffective. A disrespectful partner may interrupt, ignore, or belittle their partner's thoughts, making it difficult to have productive conversations. Instead of listening with the intention of understanding, the disrespectful partner may be more focused on asserting their own opinions or dismissing the other person's point of view. This creates an atmosphere where one partner's needs and desires are continually disregarded, leading to frustration and a breakdown in the relationship's ability to resolve issues. Without respect in communication, both partners may feel unheard and misunderstood, which makes it nearly impossible to build trust or intimacy. A lack of respect also prevents both partners from growing and evolving as individuals and as a couple. Respect encourages personal autonomy and the ability to explore and develop one's identity. In a relationship where respect is present, both partners should feel supported in their endeavors, whether they involve personal growth, career ambitions, or individual interests. However, when one partner disrespects the other, they may attempt to stifle or control the other person's growth. This can take the form of undermining their ambitions, belittling their achievements, or trying to limit their social connections. In such relationships, personal growth is stifled as one person's aspirations and individuality are sacrificed in favor of the controlling partner's desires or insecurities. This prevents the relationship from evolving into something healthy and fulfilling, as both individuals are denied the space to grow into their full potential. The impact of a lack of respect is not only emotional but also physical and psychological. Constant disrespect can lead to feelings of worthlessness, anxiety, and depression. The individual who is being disrespected may begin to internalize the negative messages they are receiving and start to believe that they are undeserving of love, care, and attention. This diminishes their sense of self-worth and can affect their overall mental and emotional well-being. Over time, the toll of this ongoing disrespect can result in the individual withdrawing emotionally or physically from the relationship. They may start to feel like they are no longer important, leading to a breakdown in intimacy and connection. One of the most difficult aspects of a relationship lacking respect is that the person being disrespected often continues to hope for change. They may rationalize their partner's behavior or make excuses, believing that the disrespect will eventually stop or that they can fix the situation. However, this is often an unhealthy mindset, as it allows the disrespectful behavior to continue unchecked. When disrespect becomes a consistent pattern, it is unlikely to change without significant intervention, such as counseling or a shift in the dynamics of the relationship. If the partner who is disrespectful is unwilling to change or acknowledge their behavior, the relationship may be beyond repair. Ultimately, a lack of respect is a serious red flag in any relationship. It signals a fundamental disregard for the other person's value and dignity and creates an environment where emotional intimacy, trust, and love cannot thrive. Respect is essential for a healthy, balanced relationship, and when it is consistently absent, it leads to emotional pain, disillusionment, and stagnation. A relationship built on disrespect cannot provide the support, security, and emotional fulfillment needed for both partners to thrive. In such cases, it is often best to walk away and seek a relationship where mutual respect, care, and consideration are present. Respect is not something that should be negotiable or conditional. It is the cornerstone of any strong and lasting relationship. In conclusion, a lack of respect, whether through dismissiveness, boundary violations, manipulation, or abuse, erodes the foundation of any relationship. Respect is crucial for trust, emotional connection, and mutual growth. Without it, relationships become unhealthy, leaving one partner feeling undervalued, unheard, and emotionally drained. Ultimately, relationships built on disrespect cannot thrive, and it is essential to recognize when this pattern is present to protect one's emotional well-being and move toward healthier connections.